afternoon and welcome. I'm Karen Marsdale. I'm on staff at the Greater Reading Chamber Alliance. And here we are with another version of our Member Spotlight, where we get to talk about our great members, what they do, not only in the community, but beyond. So I'm thrilled today to have Dennis Pellegrini with me. I've known Dennis for a number of years, Peak Brokerage Services. And you know, as I was talking to Dennis before the show, I was saying that, you know, some of us just find when we're talking to our spouses about financial planning, we're talking to a broker, we know we need to sit, we work so hard for our money, and then we don't think about what we should be doing with it that is best for our individual needs. So Dennis, we were talking about, you know, we could talk about Social Security, we could talk about the market, and you know, perhaps people can go home and listen to TV about that.
That's correct.
But you were talking about some things that I think a lot of people, kind of a best kept secret, or
yes,
some data that they just don't know about.
That's correct. And one of the reasons why they don't know about it is because the information is there, but it's not disseminated properly. Hopefully someday our government will get to the point where they give corporations incentive to educate their employees, because financial literacy is very high.
Oh my gosh.
It's very high.
It's very high on the list of needs, right?
That's correct. And keep in mind that money is one of those things that you kind of touched on indirectly, is that people don't want to talk about it. And you know, you mentioned about talking about it with your spouse. Some families, they get along and do real well with money, and some of them, unfortunately, just don't want to talk about money because they have difference of opinions.
Sure.
And it just happens to be that that's one of the biggest reasons why people get divorced, is problems with money.
Absolutely. Number one reason.
And so just that alone is reason alone to make sure that you have a plan, that both of you are on the same page working together.
Absolutely.
But now going back to some of those little secrets, what I was discussing with you before we got on camera here is that there's things like a self-directed option and in-service withdrawals that people can do within their 401k plan that they know nothing about. So
I don't, because I've never heard of them.
Yeah.
It's probably been a while since we've talked, but yes.
But nonetheless, these items do exist. Let me address one of them briefly, and that's called the self-directed option. Now, not every company has a self-directed option. You will see them with mostly the larger corporations. Locally, I believe you'll see it in companies like First Energy, UGI, UPS, Penn State Berks campus, I believe, offers it to their employees. The Reading Hospital, St. Joe's, just to name a few. So what happens is that you, the investor, the participant, are doing your payroll deduction, company's matching, money's going into retirement plan, and you really don't know what to do with it, because the only thing that's really offered is education, not so much advice. And so the self-directed option allows you to go into your retirement plan, your 403B, your 401k, and open up an account where you can have it managed by your financial advisor.
Oh, okay.
And so
ooh, that is a little secret.
Yes, it is. And so there are a lot of individuals out there that could get help. And you know, without getting into too much detail, there are studies out there that make it very clear that when you have advice, people do better. Okay, now, granted, there's a lot of people that like the idea of doing their own investing, and that's fine. But nonetheless, the data is there, and the data shows that people who have advice do better. So the self-directed option.
I agree with that.
Yeah, and so the self-directed option allows you to have a financial advisor like myself sit down with you on a regular basis and say, is this the course of action that you need to take and want to take? And if not, we can make adjustments. So you're being proactive.
So literally what's happening is you've got your money going into your 401k. As Dennis said, I may not be the expert, I certainly am not, on where that should be allocated. But it's sort of opening up that door so that my advisor can go in and say, oh boy, you know what are our plans for your future?
Exactly.
And let's make this a part of that. This is part of your portfolio. Right. Let's make this work the way we're making other things work.
Correct. And let me just go back to one of the other points that we discussed earlier, is that it's a touchy topic. And one of the reasons is that it's an emotional topic. Money is an emotional issue.
Oh, yes.
And, not that I'm a marketing expert, but if you talk to marketing people, they'll tell you that people make decisions based on emotions first, and then they justify it with intellect and logic.
Yes.
And money is one of the most emotional issues, so would it not make sense to have somebody hold you by your hand and say, look, this is what you need to do? Because a lot of times people will make mistakes because they're too aggressive or they're too conservative.
Right.
And there's also data that exists that makes it very clear that the emotional reaction to a 10% gain is not nearly as much as the emotional reaction that someone will have on a 10% loss.
Oh.
So managing expectations and emotions is a big part of what a good financial advisor will do.
Right, right. And, I'm thinking, Dennis, that absolutely, I know, being in sales for a good part of my life, that every sale is emotional. Mm-hmm. And that's even if you're buying a wheelbarrow. It doesn't have to be just, a diamond ring or something really, exciting. But, the thing that we really, it scares me when I know that Americans are not prepared to retire. They're not prepared to send their kids to college. You've got something else to talk about with that. Yeah. Kids are getting into huge amounts of debt going off to college, then can't find the jobs in the fields because there's some misalignments there. So you've got some other ideas that you want to talk to us about that really, again, is pertinent to the audience that we have. So talk about that.
Well, 4 out of 10 people are not planning for their retirement. So that's one of the problems.
Ooh,
so
not good.
Exactly. So the other 6 are doing a good thing by planning for their retirement, but they can also be rewarded by being enrolled into a program called Sage Scholars Tuition Rewards. So you can go to tuitionrewards.com or you can go to my website to get more information. But in a nutshell, it's a point system. People are credited points that can be used just like cash to pay for college tuition.
Huh.
So for instance, if I can use you as an example, by being enrolled, you plan for your retirement by participating in your 401k plan. And let's say that the program that the Chamber of Commerce offers a self-directed option. So we open up an account within the 401k, we manage it according to your expectations, your risk-reward scenario, and we get you enrolled in the Sage Scholarship Program. Every year, you're going to get a 5% match in the form of points, and the points can be used just like cash. 1 point, $1. So you do the math. If you have a $50,000 balance in your 401k plan and you keep adding to it, and that balance grows, especially with the bull market that we're in, the 5% match in the form of points can really add up. And so it's designed to provide up to 1 year's worth of scholarship credits to roughly 400 colleges.
Wow.
There's not quite 400 colleges at the state that participate. I think as of, let me just take a look here at my notes. As of November, it was 384 colleges that participated.
And I'll bet you no one in our audience today listening knows that.
And by the way, Albright, Alvernia are some of the colleges that participate.
Really?
Yep. Yeah.
That is amazing. That's
so you
amazing.
have the opportunity to get in the self-directed option with most plans. If you don't have the self-directed option, we can do this with IRAs and other accounts as well.
Sure.
Okay? And so while you're at it, while you're planning for that retirement, the 6 out of 10 people that are planning can be rewarded not only for planning, but then also help a member, a child, a grandchild. You have a couple grandchildren that can benefit.
So listen to that. It's not just children. It can be grandchildren.
Yep. Nieces, nephews, their children. So it's a family member.
Yeah.
Yeah. So one last item, if we could, before we wrap things up. There's also another item called an in-service withdrawal. So once you reach the age of roughly 55, in most cases it's 59 and a half, it depends on your plan, there's this thing called a summary plan description. You get a copy of the summary plan description and you look at the summary plan description, it'll let you know what age you can withdraw money from the plan and still be enrolled in the plan, still be employed by the organization. So it's an in-service withdrawal. And what it does is it allows you to take your money out and invest it in an IRA. And then once again, you have more investment choices. You have a financial advisor like myself that you can work with. And we can get you enrolled in the Sage Scholars Tuition Rewards Program.
You know, I've learned so much today in just what, 10 minutes that probably, well, there might be one smart person out there. Let's give them that. But Dennis, this was great.
Good.
Thank you because you really taught us something. Most importantly, you need to have a good financial advisor like Dennis who will give you the facts and not, you see so much on TV these days of, honestly, get rich quick by calling Tom or, Joe or whomever. And most of those things are just absolutely, a waste of time, number one.
That's correct.
And as you said, a wise person is going to look for somebody who's an expert as opposed to trying to do this on their own. Too many people are out there trying to play the market and
it's great when it's doing well, but when it's not.
When it's not, and you need to leverage.
Yeah.
Exactly. So, Dennis, thank you so much for being here. Great information. I really, really appreciate it. And thanks so much for your dedication, your work with the Chamber. I appreciate it wholeheartedly.
My pleasure.
Thank you.
Great seeing you again.